And that's the kind of thing that we do every day on the International Space Station. The astronauts up there are doing amazing work. They're not only maintaining this amazing facility that we have that's orbiting the Earth every day, gathering all kinds of scientific data. They're doing experiments, they're reaching out to students all around the globe, talking about science and how science education is so important. Now at NASA, we don't just have the International Space Station. We literally study the universe, from black holes to polar ice caps here on Earth, to Mars, to the sun. We literally study every phenomenon in this universe, trying to understand it, and especially trying to understand how it affects us here on Earth. Obviously, we have a very complex planet with oceans and atmosphere, and everybody living on its surface, and our planet is constantly changing. NASA has literally tens of satellites around the world. We have instruments that go up on aircraft that are done right here out of Langley Research Center, that are going up and making all kinds of measurements of the Earth's atmosphere, of its surface, trying to understand how it's changing. Now, this is all really important because it does affect us all here on Earth. All of us have had terrible weather and we have to understand it. And so it's important for you, as you grow up, not only to understand science, that hopefully one day you will be a scientist, which I hope of all of you, but also just so that we can understand what's going on. Now, when I was your age, I had a dream that maybe someday I would get to go to Mars as an astronaut. And I don't think that's going to happen, but for you guys, it possibly could happen. Right now we have a new rover on the surface of Mars. Does anybody know the rover's name on Mars? Right here in the front. Curiosity, that's right. And Curiosity right now is climbing a mountain called Mount Sharp. And what we're trying to do on Mars is to really understand what happened in the past on Mars. We know Mars was wet. We know at one point in the past on Mars it rained. There were probably lakes, maybe even seas on the surface of Mars. So maybe life evolved at some point on Mars. Not all the way to complicated beings like us, but at least maybe bacteria or small organisms that maybe by sending spacecraft there we'll be able to find. But I think really to find that evidence of life on Mars, it's going to take astronauts working on the surface of Mars, scientists, and that's where you guys come in. Because I think you'll have the opportunity about maybe 20 years or so from now to maybe go to Mars and be a scientist and work on these questions that we're so interested in. And we're not only trying to understand if there was life on Mars ever, we'd also like to know if there was ever life on Europa. Europa is a moon of Jupiter that we think has oceans underneath its surface, and maybe there's something living down there in those oceans. The other place we're looking for life is not even in our own solar system, it's beyond our solar system. We have a spacecraft called Kepler that over the last 2 years has discovered over 3,000 planets around other stars. Now just think, when I was growing up, we had 9 planets. Then it went to 8 because Pluto got demoted, which I'm not very happy about, but we won't talk about that. And 8 to 9 planets was what we had for a really long time. Now we have thousands of planets, and hopefully some of those planets will actually have life on them. And pretty soon we're going to have another instrument that we launch in a couple years called the James Webb Space Telescope that's going to have instruments on board that can start studying the atmospheres of these other planets and saying, are any of those atmospheres kind of like our own? So that we can maybe start thinking, well, that's a planet that maybe someday we could actually go visit or go explore, not around our star, but around a whole different star. But on the International Space Station, which is so exciting today that you guys get to talk to people who are actually up in space, we're doing all kinds of exciting things to prepare for that, because one of the things we want to understand is if we send astronauts to Mars, what's the effect going to be on them? Does anybody know about how long it takes to get to Mars? In the back with the blue shirts.
About 6 months.
6 months is about the fastest you can get there, and sometimes you can find 8 months, maybe 10 months is the most, but hopefully you could get there in 6 months. Well, 6 months is a lot of time to be up without having gravity, and it turns out that as humans, gravity actually helps our bodies work. It helps our heart and our lungs and really everything about us. Our bones are actually dependent on being in an environment with gravity. So when you take humans out of gravity, kind of funny things start happening to their bodies, not all of them very good. So what we're doing right now on the International Space Station is studying the effects of space on the human body, getting ready for that day, and making sure we understand how space affects humans so that we're really ready to take this trip to Mars, which hopefully will happen in the next, say, 10 to 15 years. So we're getting ready. We're learning how to grow food on the space station. We're learning how to have systems that can last all the way to Mars, how the astronauts can learn how to better take care of their homes so that if they're 10 months, 8 months away at Mars, they can fix all of their systems, not just their heating and cooling systems. So I'm so excited to be here with you guys today. I'm really excited you get this opportunity to talk, especially with astronaut Hopkins. He's a great guy and he's doing really cool stuff, and he was one of the astronauts that was out there in the cold of space fixing the space station a few weeks ago. So this is a great opportunity for you. And so thank you for inviting me to come down here today. Do I think anything in the past lived on Mars? And I think it did. And you know, you can say, well, scientists shouldn't think, they should go find out. And that's what we're trying to do with rovers like Curiosity and Opportunity and a rover that we're planning in 2020. We know the conditions were right for life to have evolved. There was liquid water, there was a source of energy which life needs. Those conditions stayed that way for a long time. Here on Earth, life evolved within a couple 100 million years of the Earth forming. So we know it doesn't take a long time, and we know all those ingredients were there on Mars, but it might be kind of hard to find the evidence, and that's why I think it's going to take sending astronauts there someday to find it out. Yeah. That's a great question. The question was, do the planets they just discovered, these 3,500 planets, do they have names? Each of them has what in my mind is kind of a ridiculous name. They have names like 3570GLBQ. So they have names, but they don't have very friendly names. And the reason for that is because they've found so many. They've just been trying to give them a designation so they can keep track of them. And there's actually something called the International Astronomical Union Commission on Nomenclature. And it's an international body that is responsible for naming everything in the universe. And I actually sit on the Venus task force, so I actually get to help name things on Venus. So that group will eventually be responsible. And it's an international group, so they try to make sure that stuff that gets named on planets represents all the countries and cultures of the world. That's a great question. She was asking of all these 3,500 planets we've just found, are any in our solar system or near it? We're pretty sure we understand our own solar system. We've got these 8 planets, and then we have a bunch of things we call minor planets, which are like Pluto, and there's something called Ceres, and there's a whole bunch of those. But we have our 8 planets and all these minor ones, and then asteroids and comets. All of these planets that we've been finding are around stars. So they're at other solar systems. They're in our galaxy. They're all in the Milky Way galaxy, but they're outside of our solar system. And some of them are sort of close to us. In fact, there was just, people were talking in the news yesterday about one that was close in size to the Earth, that was relatively close to the Earth, but they're still so far away that we don't have the technology to be able to visit them right now, but hopefully we will someday.
November Alpha 1 Sierra Sierra, November Alpha 1 Sierra Sierra. This is Kilo 4 Romeo Charlie. Kilo 4 Romeo Charlie calling. Over. Antennas right now are changing positions. We should be able to hopefully hear the space station here in a moment. Kilo 4 Romeo
job? Over.
Yeah, nothing gets done up here without teamwork. We got the crew up here at 6 as a team, and then we've got hundreds and thousands of people on the ground that are extremely important to get the job done. They are our systems experts, and without them, we wouldn't be able to do what we do up here. Over.
Hi, my name is Bernard Beard. What is the most exciting experiment you have conducted or discovery you have made so far?
Hey, Brenner, that's a great question. What's going on up here from us being the guinea pigs to combustion chambers and fluid dynamics. But one of the ones that I think that's going to be very exciting is coming up soon on the Cygnus vehicle, and that's going to be ants. We're going to have an ant farm up here, and they're going to be studying the behavior of these ants and micrographing. I think that's going to be very exciting. Over.
This is Captain Capella. What are your future career plans and when you return over?
Hi, Catherine. Future career plans. Well, I'm still in the Air Force, active duty in the Air Force, and I'm going to continue to stay in the Air Force for a little while longer. And then I'd love to fly again someday. So obviously there's a lot of work to do on the ground. A lot of people, a lot of astronauts that aren't flying that help us out up here. So I'm sure I'll be doing some of those jobs when I get back. Over.
Zachary Mayer, what was your greatest challenge during your journey to become an astronaut? Over.
Hey, Zachary. I wouldn't say I really had a lot of challenges in terms of becoming an astronaut because I was in the Air Force, I was testing airplanes, and I was doing something that I loved. And so there was nothing challenging about that. I guess if there was any challenge, it was just being paid